Katherine Eban, Bottle of Lies, The Inside Story of the Generic Drug Boom. Prepare to uncover the unsettling truths behind the generic drug manufacturing industry in the New York Times bestseller, Bottle of Lies by Katherine Eban. This riveting work exposes an industry plagued with corruption and fraud, using the shocking case of Ranbaxy Laboratories as its illustrative centerpiece. Delve into the treacherous world of regulatory bodies such as the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and learn how insufficient oversight has jeopardized the safety and efficacy of drugs produced overseas. As you navigate through this chilling exposé, consider the enormous cost of compromising drug production integrity and the implications for public health.
Corruption in the generic drug industry. In Bottle of Lies, Katherine Eban exposes the corruption and fraud rampant in the generic drug industry through the lens of the Ranbaxy Laboratories case. Eban demonstrates that regulatory bodies like the U.S. Food and Drug Administration have failed to stop malpractice. Despite the disturbing revelations, Eban's investigative journalism has earned the book critical acclaim. NPR.org lauds it as propulsive, astounding, and disturbing, and the Hindustan Times calls it an extraordinary international corporate thriller. This necessary read sheds light on the dangers of the generic drug industry and its impact on public health. The generics market. The generics market has become enormous, making up 90% of U.S. drug inventory. When a brand-name drug's patent expires, generic versions are formulated, helping to trim healthcare expenses. However, Katherine Eban's book explores how this market size leads to fraud and corruption, with challenges in certifying drugs manufactured overseas. Without generics, healthcare programs such as the Affordable Care Act and Medicare Part D would be unaffordable, affecting patients and charitable organizations alike. A shortcut to the market. In the 1980s, after heavy lobbying, policymakers created a process for FDA approval of generics that granted generic drug makers a significant shortcut to the market. Instead of conducting long-term trials, generics companies only had to prove that their drugs were bioequivalent and performed similarly to name-brand drugs. While the FDA ensured compliance with good manufacturing practices, it could not carry out surprise inspections overseas, as noted by Eban. Corruption in the drug industry. In Bottle of Lies, Katherine Eban reveals the corrupt practices within the U.S. drug industry. Eban exposes how drug company executives bribed FDA reviewers and the lack of supervision on bulk drugs imported from overseas. The scandal led to the Generic Drug Enforcement Act of 1992, but the FDA still struggled to keep up with inspections by the end of the decade. The dark world of generic drugs. Investigative journalist Katherine Eban exposes the fraudulent practices of pharmaceutical manufacturer Ranbaxy in selling dangerous or ineffective generics globally. Despite being exposed by WHO and FDA, Ranbaxy continued making huge profits and even secured exclusive rights to produce generic Lipitor, earning almost $600 million. Ranbaxy eventually settled for $500 million, less than what it earned from Lipitor sales. Eban's account sheds light on the shady practices within the generic drug industry and the flawed regulatory framework that allows such companies to thrive. Eban's warning on generic drugs. Investigative journalist Katherine Eban's book exposes the corrupt and dangerous world of generic drugs, revealing the risks faced by consumers. In a gripping narrative style, Eban provides intricate details of her investigation and the bureaucratic hurdles in fighting drug-related fraud. She advocates for policy and policing measures to combat the issue, highlighting the need for consumer protection. Eban's work serves as an eye-opener for anyone who takes prescription medication and is a valuable resource for laypeople, policymakers, physicians, and consumer activists alike. This book reads like a thriller, with the shocking revelation that the victims of this corruption are unsuspecting consumers.
Bottle of Lies unveils the alarming magnitude of corruption and fraud within the generic drug industry, as exemplified by the notorious case of Ranbaxy Laboratories. This eye-opening work highlights the inadequacy of regulatory bodies like the FDA, and the consequential danger consumers face when consuming potentially unsafe and ineffective drugs. Katherine Eban masterfully constructs a narrative that serves as a stark warning about the risks involved in relying on generic drugs, and raises questions about the culpability of both manufacturers and regulators. It is an essential read for anyone concerned with public health, policy, and consumer safety, urging all to reconsider their trust in the generic drug industry.